Hello, welcome to the Get Psyched podcast of Harriet Watt University of the Psych Society. My name is Tahra and I will be hosting today's podcast with Naila.
Hi, everyone. So today's podcast is going to be about the misconceptions in psychology. So before we get to the misconception, we should talk about what is psychology. It's basically the study of the mind and cognitive behavior. Most of these studies and research is just that it revolves around these two basic things, the mind and cognitive behaviors. So one of the most common misconception I've come across since it's been 3 years now. Yeah. We've come across is psychologists can read minds. Can you read minds?
No, we cannot
We
read
cannot
minds.
read minds. So this is one of the most common misconceptions people have related to psychologists. Every time you hear someone say, I'm doing psychology, it's like, oh, can you read my mind? Or no, not really. So what happens with psychology is actually or psychologists when you interact is that they can observe behavior, they can infer what you are and who you are based on the interactions you have and the information you give them. And so it's more of collecting data about who you are than about reading minds. And so when you get to know someone, you can make certain predictions. It'll be like, oh, your personality is like this, you're more likely to engage in certain behaviors. It's more of making inferences than about a person than about reading their mind.
Exactly. Okay, moving on to the next misconception, that is how psychology is just common sense. No, you learn more about humans through their behavior, through different personalities, and a way of approaching these studies are by doing more experiments, doing multiple theories, learning about them. So basically, it's not just common sense, it's how you try to learn different behaviors that we try to come across in everyday life.
Okay, so another misconception is that anyone that seeks psychological support is crazy, which is not true. A lot of healthy people or who people don't have mental illnesses actually also seek psychological support for various of reasons, such as how to cope with life stressors or stress even. And so psychology really covers a broad range of things, and it's not just, okay, how do we deal with mental illness, and it's more for, okay, how does it help you improve your life and how to improve behavior and all these certain aspects of yourself that you feel like need help.
It's not limited just to being called crazy, A-quoted. It's a wide range of spectrum that we have, as it can be just coping up. Consulting a psychologist can be helpful in coping up with a traumatic situation that has occurred, or maybe someone that has gone through an accident and they want to cope up with things in their life, or someone who cannot be as, because of some situations, their social life has degraded, so maybe to improve that. So again, it's a wide spectrum. It doesn't necessarily have to be because, they have a mental illness. No, it's not limited just to a disease or an illness. And another misconception is how psychologists work just in hospitals or clinics. So there's a little bit of psychology in everything, different fields in psychology. Let's say there's forensic psychology, where there are psychologists who will be consulting criminals and try to get to know more about the case and about the criminal, about their thinking, their behavior. And then there's social workers, that is counselors that we have in school who can help the students with any issues that they might face across their adolescence. And then we have in organizational psychology, where you try to see how the behavior, the challenges that they face in a company or in an organization. And then there's cultural psychology, where how different behavior is completely different and varied across cultures. And I think another field that I have been noticing that's been growing in the United Arab Emirates is the SEN, or the special education needs teachers or assistants, where they will be supporting a child or a student throughout their school who might be going through special education needs, that might be autistic or might be in a wide spectrum of ADHD. So psychology helps in providing support even in educational institutions and systems.
So there's a bit of psychology in everything, I would say. And the last misconception is anyone can be a counselor, and this is not true. You are required to have the proper credentials and proper training to be a counselor. It's not just being a psychologist, you read a book and then bam, you're a psychologist. No, actually there's proper training that needs to be done. And even after getting a degree, depending on what field in psychology you want to pursue, there's other qualifications for that as well. So it does require training, it does require specialization and a lot of practice as well. There are requirements to work internships and placements in order to get experience in a psychology field. So
and another misleading factor that I've noticed about psychology is these posts that are quite common these days in social media. Mm-hmm. That is like how psychology says if you've dreamt about, like for example, psychology says if you've dreamt about this person, it's because they like you, and different posts like that.
Yeah, I've seen those as well. Especially, I think they try to make psychology very mainstream and trendy. And so, but we know that psychology is a science and there is evidence supporting theories and things we find about people's behavior. So it's not just like, oh, if psychology says that if you do this and this, then that means, where's the evidence? Where's the, what's the theory? Should always question things like this in the media. It's not always just
because if you think about it, like if there are people who do not have clear idea of what is psychology, mm-hmm. they might just blindly trust it.
That is true. I have had many people come up with me, tell me, is this true? Yeah.
So just it needs to be, psychology is always backed by science. Mm-hmm. So it's always backed up by science. So just an assumption like that doesn't show that it's a psychological fact.
Yes, because psychology is a science, and science is not always about innovation and discovering new things, but sometimes it's and testing certain theories, things you can see. A lot of people, when they think of science, it's like testing something we can see in the real world. You have a microscope, okay, I can see this. But a lot of it in psychology is something we can't see. It's very internal, something that happens in the mind. We observe behavior, but a lot of the thinking process, it happens in the mind. And so it's hard for people to believe it as a science, but it is. There's a lot of studies that have been done that have confirmed many, many theories on behavior and why people act the way they do, and explaining behavior, and even the neurology.
Yes, there's proper science behind it. Mm-hmm. Like there's neuropsychology. We learn the way the brain acts, the way it does to show a person's behavior, mm-hmm. a person's personality, which parts of brain is affected for
with
them
certain
to act
behaviors.
like this.
Yeah.
So it is a science, so it will always be backed up by facts.
Yeah, and evidence.
So guys, don't believe these posts.
So that's it on misconceptions of psychology, and these are just some of them. There are many others. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much. Bye.